As I said, it's all about anchoring the galaxy, not only the crown being a very important part of the galaxy, anchoring the galaxy, the crown, all the elements, Auroville, into the context in a design exercise, which is very important to me, to merge vision and reality and then move progressively forward. For me, since I'm here, I'm trying to find ways of how can we take that image, how can we take Mother's vision, which brought all of us here, how can we take that and land it onto this plateau, into this cultural, social, political, topographical context, finally, without animosity and all, and just, Omar said it at one point really nice, take it as a joyful exercise to work together. So for me, I had to do some basic framework. As I said, it's very assumed, it's very personal, it's not supposed to offend anybody when I say Auroville is not to be built on a flat and empty plateau. It's just for me my experience of living in Auroville for quite a long time. For me, it's clear that the ground conditions don't support a 1:1 implementation onto the ground. And even if it would have been, we should have done that 50 years ago, buying all the land, the villages wouldn't have had that extent what they're having today. For me, it's also clear Auroville is not a finished product, and it's a process which takes its time, like Dreamweaving. The galaxy, as beautiful as it serves as a possible blueprint, as an ideation, as a concept that waits for us to take up that challenge and find appropriate manifestations. The master plan, and I'm not arguing which one, is one step towards that manifestation. It's not rigid. It was never intended to be. I don't go into that master plans are part of a larger framework. They need development plans. They need annual plans and so on. So again, the master plan needs to connect to the larger frame and the context. Similar, all of the Aurovillians, or most, I speak from my perspective, I'm a transitional being. I'm far away from being the true Aurovillian. I drive a motorbike, as many of us do. I'm sometimes non-vegetarian and all. I swear, I have my anger issues. So far from perfect. With that, and I think many people feel the same, with that we have to do what we are in the present moment, aspire and move towards. So with that also motorized traffic as we have it, it's part of our world. So we have to gradually shift away from motorized traffic. So Auroville, being then an urban exploration, will by default, has always had an experimental character, and the parameters beyond, of course the dream and the charter are there, but our day-to-day life experiences, our growth, our failings, that's all changing. So, and for me then the work on the crown needs to be seen in the above context and cannot be addressed in isolation. So this presentation is really a personal attempt of bringing mobility as one important part of urban life, of Auroville, to bring that into the context. It calls for an approach that does not blind out the life which we have all around us, which we hear, which I see when I drive out of Perpendiculam every day. And it's also not about demonizing or finding the need to protect Auroville from it, but it's rather an approach which looks towards a mutually beneficial coexistence between us who have consciously chosen to live here and the people who live around. It's a rough suggestion. I'm not a town planner, I'm an architect, I know the area fairly well, but it's just a rough suggestion, a starting point, and it needs a lot of professional collaborative work between planners, Aurovillians, panchayats, local population, state and central government. So what I did is I zoomed out. When I looked at for me it was always kind of sad in a way to see the galaxy being so isolated and not linked with the context. Even in early drawings, you could see there was one northern bypass, there was a southern bypass, and then there were some kind of connects from the outer ring. And that was it. Even in the mobility study of Billinger and all, it was not much more. No, it was marked, okay, northeast kind of node, northwest node. So then I zoom out a little bit. So what we have is we have the highway going to Tindivanam, I think, a largely underutilized main road. We have the East Coast Road. We have from Pudupet up here all the way to Olundayapet, we have one road, which we call the Nessel Road, which is by now really developed, not so much traffic, and we have, which could serve as the northern bypass. We don't have a southern bypass outside of our master plan area. So the only thing what we have is the road from Bomayapalayam or Mudalia Chavadi, going through Kolapalayam, through the Greenbelt, touching the city area, then going through Edayan Chavadi, here to Kut Road, or here to the toll gate in Moratandi. We have umpteen of roads, which are, and all of these yellow roads are already paved. They go through heavily, densely populated areas. And then we have roads which soon will come, which are partially here at Udumbu, already paved, and there is a large push to develop this. There's one here which goes from Pete to Aragabumi, the road down here to Pondi. So this is zooming in into our master plan area with a kind of imprint of the master plan proposed roads. And I hope it's not provocative if I say that they are proposed, but that's what's written in the master plan document. You see we have large patches of temple land. Orange is a little bit of Perambuk, which is very important to consider because a lot of these roads, for example, from here up the Samridi Canyon, here up next to Arya and all, the road which goes from Certitude all the way to the Matrimandir, these are all roads which are on Perambuk. So it's not so easy to just wish them away. For me, the next step in this work was really to look, how can I take this idealized road imprint with the galaxies, with the line of forces, how can I take that and connect it with the traffic systems, with the growth areas, with the water bodies, with the forest areas, with the land holdings? How can I bring that together and see how much comes out of it? For me, it was always when I looked at the galaxy, I always wanted to work on almost like a Swiss cheese, where you have that perfect round cheese, and then you puncture holes, no? Where there's a village, there's a lake, whatever, and then you see what comes out. And for me, being a planner, that's what really is fun, to somehow see how, I don't want to say mental systems, but how conceived systems react with the many aspects of life and how they become alive inside. So this is purely the master plan roads and the line of forces. So, and then this is something which, and I will explain it next. If I really look at areas, I see the villages over here, I see the water bodies over here, I see the highway, I see a large part of our green belt, the regenerative forest work which has happened over here also. So a lot of development happening over here. So then this is something which, and again, it's a very personal, it's a very unprofessional approach. But for me, it's kind of, okay, how can I fuse them? How can I also, for me, it's always difficult to understand how we have no problems of offloading all the traffic which goes to the Matrimandir or to the visitor center, to guide that directly through the 2.5 meter wide road in Edayan Chavadi. This here, it has charm, but it's a complete mess. So what can I do to bypass certain areas? So I could imagine that some of the traffic which goes in, and we have to think of all the different categories of traffic which are there. So I could imagine that parts of the traffic which come from over here goes, and here we have the outside of the master plan area. It's mostly not developed land yet, highly sought after with increasing rates. I could imagine some bypass coming over here. I need to take this road as a given. And however sad it will be, it is one of the most beautiful avenues in our region. I don't see that the trees will survive the next 10, 20 years. It's just so much pressure on that road already. Here they started widening it. So this road is a given. So I could unload some of the traffic going through Kulapalayam. I could do that with a bypass road over here. Similar I could do here, and this is the one road in the master plan layout which is actually there. So I could have here from that place, the back road, Red Earth Riding, Aurobriaspati, and end from here, from Moratandi, I could bypass some of the traffic here. The first step also would be to install more toll gates over here, so that all the trucks which carry chemicals and all, they are not necessarily bypassing the toll gate over here, but they would have to go here. So we would already save quite a lot of traffic. I can do the same over here. There is already one node over here which goes to Sanjeevinagar, Alankupam. I could make a small bypassing Irumba. It could be a very beautiful, very sacred entrance with the temple over here. So then I come over here, the traffic could move. I have a reception center over here. I marked it a little bit in colors, the areas where you see a lot of development happening in the future. And as it is, right now it falls a little bit into place that where we have the chance to increase our forest area or green belt, we don't have much traffic as yet. We have a lot of traffic coming in here with the villages connecting. So here I would just see that I have a very careful filtered traffic coming in. I also see that the outer ring is an important part of the whole road concept. So why not try to have it as an imprint on the ground, using it as a cycle path, using it as a tree walk, using it marked symbolically, not necessarily as your 30-meter wide road. For me personally, this was one of the key drivers behind doing all of that work, because if I would imagine I have a 30-meter wide road cutting through Revelation, cutting through some Riddy forest, a large part of what that part of Auroville has done in the last 53 years is gone. And it's not only about the numbers of trees, but it's the destruction of a working singular biotope. So that for me was, but again, where can I work with the outer ring, for example, to make it meaningful? So we have the chance to bring it over here. We have the chance, and the TDC is working on it. We can do the outer ring here. Maybe we push it a little bit inside so that on both sides of the road we have Auroville land. Here again, I don't know, is it required to have the outer ring because I have a large traffic over here? Maybe again, it's just symbolically marked, or it becomes, I don't know. I have the chance to really connect the industrial zone from Kotakarai, from Alankupam entrance over here, can create a loop road. So with that system, for me, I thought there is a chance of working sensibly, bringing in the required infrastructure, mobility-wise right now, so that the city can grow for the next 10, 20, 25 years. So here are some of the key elements of this mobility proposal next. And for me, is it still possible to see the galaxy? I can, and I think a lot of the people who have seen it said similar, yes. So here it's a little bit more, you overlay it and you see that we have to then, and this is a lot of work, and it's not possible to do that in 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We have to see what the Southern Service node becomes. It will become a transport switch. You have parking, you have facilities, you have services, petrol bunks, I don't know. You have an access control here at Sukhavati. You have an access control here at Dana. You have an access control here and here. You create that loop. So it's pretty much the same map, but zoomed in a little bit. This is a key part which will host all the facilities we have to welcome visitors. I think we can't say it. We have, what was it? I think 1 million visitors every year. So we somehow have to accommodate, facilitate them. I'm not right now debating the line of goodwill. It can play a very good role, and I actually like the imprint on it. It's large. We have to see how it's possible, but I think it's a daring gesture. So yeah. What I do also here is because, and this maybe people find provocative, but for me, I would keep the existing road that we have over here, the road from Certitude to Solar Kitchen. I would finally acknowledge that this road exists. It's there. I would pave it. I would also give people who have, hi Julio, who have their private interests next to that road, like Muddy and his sons, or whatever is over here, I don't know the name. I would give them the chance to be integrated into Auroville. Why not? So, and then from here, anyway, the road is paved. I can use it very well. And with that, I can connect here around the lake, which comes whatever shape it will take. I have my traffic much controlled, much less Auroville internal. I have here the traffic going on the crown. the cultural zone, in my imagination, being much more inward looking, much more focused on e-mobility, slow traffic, pedestrian. So I would see a gradual decrease of traffic over here. Again, the main traffic is here, and it takes into perspective that ideally within the next 10 years we all switch to community transport, e-mobility, away from fossil fuel motorized vehicles. Yeah, and then it really focuses in on the crown. So you have wherever, I have like the Solar Kitchen roundabout here, I have the Vikas radial, here I have the end of the residential zone, sector 1, I have Kalabumi. So I could create on the crown, with its changing character, I could create, so again, changing character of the crown. For me, the crown is not a 16.7 meter wide road necessarily, which is uniform, cutting all around through that center. It will change depending on what zone it goes through, if it crosses a green corridor, if it's largely for internal traffic, if it's industrial traffic, for example, here where I have the land owned by Michael Bonke, where it's sometimes, for example, when it crosses Darkali, I would just see it as the infrastructure going through a service road, either on the ground or floating above the canopy. The same here in Bliss. Now we've created conditions so the high tension line goes in, but still the main traffic which wants to find its way can go on the existing road, which then anyway goes further to the Dana Road and connects to the Greenbelt. So I could have a cultural zone plaza here where people meet, play, performances. I have a further access to the sports areas. I have an Auroville Youth Plaza with cultural facilities, info on youth activities, green work, expo, a transportation switch. I have the residential zone plaza, and I think other presentations will focus on that area where I have a large change from individual traffic, if I don't do it already here at the Southern Service Node. So I have all these different plazas, which, to borrow one term, could really become the jewels on the crown. So what I then did in the next section, so it's all just a focus in, and that's still a lot of work to be done. And I don't know how many of you looked at the presentation of Lata and Prashant, which they divided the crown into 8 segments, and they analyzed the topographical part, they analyzed what are the boundaries, they analyzed the hydrological state, and then they gave recommendations of the existing use and proposed use. So I just copied it because I don't know how much it has been shared so far. So I just wrote down what they did because I think it's already a really good, and both of them are town planners, so it's already a really good kind of guideline catalog of what is and what can happen in the next few years. So the same here, we have the residential zone, as I said, 3, 4, and 5, sector 3, 4, and 5. The large part of the traffic could go around here, which then makes this part of the crown, like the Crownways study, it makes it really a very Auroville internal, slow traffic community space. Pedestrian, cyclists, e-mobility. Of course, you have your delivery for PTDC and what other facilities come up here. And I could have a really beautiful chain of small plazas wherever they overlap or where I have a point of interest. And I can have neighborhood activity points, community facilities, tea shops, what all, hospitality, health facilities. Then I come to the international zone segment. It was a long debate why I have here this loop road. Is it a master plan road or not? I think why not? It's a good road. People have been working on it. It seems a kind of logical access part of the international zone. It could extend here towards that road which goes around the lake. Here I have a very interesting plaza where a lot of people come in from Kotakarai, Bharatinagar. I have archaeological findings over there which could really be nicely exhibited. Then I come to the Darkali Park segment. For me, it's really unthinkable to bring in the traffic. And I've shown in the next slide, just keep it there right now, how Darkali stewards have thought about how it can be done. So for me, what I thought is the traffic, we have the existing road over here. I have the Kali temple. I could use part of that already paved, quite beautiful road over here. And then instead of going into Kotakarai, I could develop a road along the fence of Darkali and then come back and join the crowd at the Crown at the language lab. And then only I have the infrastructure going through this line of force. One has to see how it develops, and I think other people in our group looked at it. Is it a full building? Is it something else? So this was one of the proposals of the Akali, who have been really, so again to highlight that people have individually also been working on looking at their areas of interest. So they have been working here trying to find a way of how the cable and a kind of access road could go through the Akali. The parameters of TDC have also been changed over the years. Next, please. Bypassing the water bodies which you have over here. Next. These were different options which they did under pressure. One is just to find a way and just to collaborate and see like, hey, how can we protect what we have created here? What it has a benefit which is really unique. So you could have an idea, you have a working thing you have an access path on the ground, ideally following that prepared road already. You could have a motorable way on top with some loop public e-pods. You could have a skywalk above the canopy. Next, then downgrade it a little bit. You have just your common flyover. Again, you would have to define what comes, but it still allows the wildlife to continue. Next. Or you go into the most, I don't know, grounded version, but then you need to see how do you protect it. So then we come, this is the industrial zone. Then we have the YC. So there were already a lot of proposals done by the YC and the people from Bliss. And I think even though it has been cleared and the infrastructure has been laid in a circular pattern, you still can do a lot around it. We still have Bliss Forest, which is not just a thorny woodland, but you have really beautiful species of trees. We could open up the forest, create arboretums, forest walks. You still have the stage area, the youth. Yeah, what do I say? I think we really have the responsibility of helping and supporting the youth to recreate these safe and joyful spaces that they deserve, protected by the forest in the middle of the city, and the Crown will find its way. So again, it's all about the need to have these DDPs. This is then the cultural zone segment where I think we have this beautiful space, Kalabumi. It could extend, it could connect to the sports facilities over here. So what next for me is to collect the feedback, not only the positive, which I think is the point of the Dreamweavers to only give positive feedback, but I'm happy to hear critical feedback. For me, very interesting would be to look at the aspect of infrastructure beyond mobility. Is it really required everywhere to have so many lines? Is a centralized system stronger than a combination of centralized and local systems? What is more resilient? I think resilience is for me one of the key words any city has to deal with. To see how, so I would be happy to hear tomorrow what really is required in what given space, see how other Dreamweavers are working on the ground, see what can be the next steps, and then work with interested stakeholders in some of the more sensitive areas. That's it.